So let's discuss it on the live. Good morning. I'm Junior from Here For You Life Coaching, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the vocalization process, a little about your subconscious. There is only the subconscious, the conscious, and superconscious. Good morning, Jay. Good morning, you guys. So we're gonna discuss a little bit of that. Now, the biggest thing I think, the biggest hindrance. Good morning, Richard. The biggest hindrance I think to subconscious learning is resistance. Okay, so when you're talking about manifestation, you can call it achieving goals. You can call it goal setting. You can call it all of that. Okay, but when you're discovering the fact that you can control these things, when you can control manifestation, when you can actually pick a target and say, okay, that's what I'm going to go for, and you take the steps. Okay, the affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization. When you take the steps towards it and it starts to materialize into your world, and you kind of figure out you have the control over it to do it, then all you need to really be mindful of is the resistance part. Okay, now resistance, how does that show up? Well, resistance can happen physically or it can happen mentally. What does mental resistance look like? Self-doubt. So, when you have an inspired thought to do something, and the thought may be, oh, let's start a side hustle, right? And then your left side brain, right, the rational part, the logic part goes, well, maybe, no, maybe not, maybe that's not such a good idea. Or maybe, no, remember how you failed the last time when you tried something? And slowly you get rationalized out of that idea. Okay, but these are logical thoughts. Now, some of the most highly paid people that I know are very rational. They have to be, okay? And a lot of my clients, the majority of my clients are high performance professionals, and they have very good logic minds. But you see, it's the right side of the right brain where the superconscious lives and the superconscious operates. Okay, so you were talking about intuition. We're talking about divine inspiration that you get intuitively. Okay, so the old scenario that I put forth all the time is that you're driving down the road and you get this inspired thought to turn right, but because you have a freedom of thought, right? You have free will. You dismiss it, and then you go straight ahead. And what happens? You get caught in the traffic jam, and you go, "I knew I should have turned there," because you did know. You did intuitively know, but you didn't trust it. And now because you didn't trust it, you're stuck in the traffic jam. Okay, so I talk about that a lot in my book. Okay, I talk about this process a lot. Okay, intuitive thought. I also talk about in the book how I teach from intuition a lot. Okay, so let me give you an example of what that sounds like. Okay, because you've done it. I guarantee you've done it. And what this is drawing upon the superconscious. So have you ever been explaining something to someone, like how to do something, and then you start saying things that you didn't even know you knew? Okay, that's channeling. I channel a lot when I teach. Okay, and how do you channel? Well, you get rid of the resistance. What's the resistance? Well, doubt. Okay, because if you're doubting yourself, if you're doubting what you're saying in the moment, you cannot allow the channel to open. You cannot allow the channel to freely be expressed, or to express freely from the superconscious. Okay, now we can call it God, we can call it source, you can call it higher self, you can call it infinite intelligence, but that's what it is. Now, the subconscious communicates with the superconscious. Okay, so your subconscious holds the topic. So let's say, for example, maybe it's a new house you want. Okay, so if you want a new house, now you tell your subconscious you want a new house. So maybe you write it. Okay, so like, I am so happy and grateful now that I have my new house. Thank you. Now, your subconscious, after writing that a bit, after doing the affirmations a bit, your subconscious knows now, oh, okay, house is the thing. We're doing house. So your subconscious will know that. Okay, so now your subconscious will start to give you confirmation towards the house. Okay, and you will start to seek towards the house. Okay, so your subconscious will give you topics. Well, maybe you should go to an open house. Maybe you should talk to a realtor. Maybe you should talk to a bank. Maybe you should get a loan. Maybe you should, right, look into all these possibilities. Now, the superconscious will start working with the subconscious to give you intuitive thought around whatever it is you have put in the subconscious. Okay, and this is how manifestation works. So if you think manifestation is magic or mystical, it's only mystical in the sense that you're a human being. It's only a miracle in the sense that you're the miracle. And you have to look in the mirror. If you want to see a miracle, go look in the mirror. Go look in any mirror you can find, and you will see the miracle. Okay, but it's there. Okay, you are the miracle. You possess the power in here. Jesus Christ said the kingdom is within. The kingdom is in here. Okay, it's not out there. So when you seek, you need to seek inside. A lot of people really don't know how to do that. A lot of people really aren't aware of how to seek within. And all you need to do is be still. It's very difficult in this day and age. It's very difficult to be still and know. So resistance can show up in the form of, I don't know if I can do that. I don't think I can do that. I'm not good enough to do that. I don't, that kind of thing where you start doubting yourself. Now, negative self-talk is when those thoughts keep repeating, when they keep repeating. So a long time ago, I remember my mom was cleaning house, and I must have been, I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again. I must have been about 11, 12 years old. My mom was cleaning the house one day, and she said something to the effect of, you know how clumsy you are. And that kind of stuck with me, and I started thinking about it. And it wasn't till I was 40 years old that I had brought that up with my girlfriend at the time, and I said, no, I'm really clumsy. And she said, you are not clumsy. I said, no, I am. I'm clumsy. She said, who told you you're clumsy? And I had to think about it. And I thought about it, and I said, yeah, no, it was my mom. I'm clumsy. She knows me. She said, you are not clumsy. So I had to reanalyze, okay? I had to be aware of myself and watch over myself and look for clumsiness for like 2 weeks. And after the 2-week period, I go, yeah, you know what? There was no clumsiness involved. I'm not clumsy. But because it's not true, this is not true. So I showed it to this lady, and that's why it's in my book. And I showed her that it's not true. And in the book, I talk about the fact that, even with the most well-meaning of circumstances, these things stick in our subconscious, okay? And all someone has to do is be important enough in your life and say the wrong thing, and that thing will stick because you'll think about it. You'll think about it over and over and over, okay? And when you start thinking about it, guess what happens? A belief is a thought you keep thinking. Okay, so the more you think about it, the more you believe it. And pretty soon, it becomes a firmly held belief. And you believe it to be true. Now, let's look at the imaginary tree. Okay, so first you have the roots of the tree. That's your subconscious. The roots of the tree is where you hold all your core values in your subconscious. Now, the trunk of the tree, okay, is your paradigm. The way you see the world based upon what you believe. Now, the fruits of the tree on top, right? The fruits are your actions that turn into results. So if you want to change a result, can you just do like a random action and get a random result? Yeah, you can. But if you want to change your life, if you want to change the way things go on a permanent basis, you have to change the roots. You have to get in and change the roots. And how do you do that? Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, and visualization. Okay, and that's a permanent way of doing it, because you can create any action and get any result. Okay, but if you want them consistently, you need to do it that way. Now, the subconscious, how can this be done, right? Well, several ways. Hypnosis is one way. Okay, neuro-linguistic programming is another. You change your emotional associations, okay, and mental patterns through words or the way you phrase things, or the way you speak things. I did comedy for years and years on the radio, and I made it really funny with the different words that I chose to use to describe things. And I was using NLP a lot. And people thought it was funny because you could interchange adjectives and project a whole different picture in the minds of your listeners if you're on the radio. And that's the kind of comedy I did. So it was actually what we called theater of the mind. And theater of the mind is where you paint pictures in people's heads with words. And NLP is you have to write it. Okay. You have to write it. Okay. And one of the things that's being done less in schools is writing. Everything is typing now. Okay. Is that a coincidence? Is that a coincidence